الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستهديه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له أرسل نبيه بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله ولو كره الكافرون وأشهد أن محمدا عبد الله ورسوله أدى الأمانة وبلغ الرسالة ونصح الأمة اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. أوصيكم ونفسي بتقوى الله فالتقوى مفتاح السعادة في الدنيا والآخرة ومن يتق الله يجعل له مخرجا ويرزقه من حيث لا يحتسب. Dear brothers and sisters in Islam, we start by praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We praise Allah, we seek His forgiveness, we seek His guidance, we seek His mercy, and we ask Him to forgive us from the evil of our deeds and the sins of our hearts. We bear witness that there is no deity but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we bear witness that Muhammad is His messenger and servant. He sent him to the whole world as a guidance and a mercy to guide the whole world to the straight path. Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam fulfilled his mission and delivered his trust. Every Friday and even every day we should remember Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam by sending our prayers and greetings of peace to him. اللهم صل على محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وبارك على محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. I enjoin upon you and myself to remain conscious of Allah. Being conscious of Allah opens for us the great doors of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mercy in this life and in the hereafter. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promised those who remain conscious of Him that He will ease their difficulty. يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا. He will ease their difficulty. وَيَرْزُقْهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبْ. And He will provide for him from wherever he did not expect. And in the hereafter, there are gardens under which rivers flow. Last week, Muslims celebrated the birthday of the Prophet ﷺ. And some people are of the opinion that this is bid'ah. True, this is bid'ah if you consider it a religious Eid, because according to our fiqh, there are only two Eids for Muslims, Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha. But celebrating the birthday of the Prophet is a spiritual event. It is an event where Muslims express their love to the Prophet ﷺ. And we are asked to love the Prophet ﷺ. It is part of our deen, and it is an obligatory duty for each Muslim to love the Prophet ﷺ. We love the Prophet ﷺ more than anything in this life, and even more than ourselves. The Prophet ﷺ said that the Iman of each of you will not be perfected, will not be complete until he loves me more than he loves his children, he loves his parents, and he loves the whole world. لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى أكون أحب إليه من ولده ووالده والناس أجمعين. So it is an obligatory duty for us to love the Prophet ﷺ and to express that love. But the expression of love for the Prophet ﷺ should not be limited to celebrating his birthday. We have to express our love to the Prophet ﷺ each and every day. And to do this, we need three things. We need a mindset, we need knowledge, and we need action. The mindset is to have in our inner self that the Prophet ﷺ is the most loved one for each and every one of us. As he said, you should love me more than you love your children or parents or anybody else. Sayyidina Umar ibn al-Khattab went one day to the Prophet ﷺ and he said, Ya Rasulullah, I love you more than anything else. And the Prophet ﷺ asked him, Umar, do you love me more than you love yourself? And Umar was honest. He said, no, I love myself more than I love you. The Prophet ﷺ responded then saying that this is not enough. Your faith is not complete. Sayyidina Umar went away. He reflected on this and he worked on his mindset to create a mindset that tells him or drives him to love the Prophet ﷺ more than himself. Then he went back to the Prophet ﷺ and he said, now I love you more than I love anything else, including myself. And the Prophet ﷺ said, Al-an ya Umar. Now, Umar, you have reached that stage of perfect iman. So we need to create that mindset that controls our thinking, controls our deeds, and controls our actions. The second thing we need is that we need to know the Prophet ﷺ. We need the ilm. We need the knowledge. We need to study the seerah. We need to know what the Prophet ﷺ was doing in his daily life. How was he as a man? How was he as a husband? How was he as a father? How was he as a companion? How was he as a leader? The Prophet ﷺ was perfect in all respects. And it is not a perfection that is difficult to attain by human beings, because the Quran stresses over and over again that the Prophet ﷺ is a human being and he does only the things that the human beings do. Sayyidah Aisha, when she was asked about the Prophet, how was he? She said, كَانَ خُلُقُهُ الْقُرْآنِ. His character was according to the Quran. He never did anything that contravened the commandments of the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us about Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. He said to him, وَإِنَّكَ لَعَلَى خُلُقٍ عَظِيمٍ. You have the greatest moral character. وَإِنَّكَ لَعَلَى خُلُقٍ عَظِيمٍ. So one of the things we need to know about the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, what was his khuluq, what was his character, what was his behavior, how he dealt with people, and so on. Because only then we can act. The Prophet ﷺ said, إِنَّمَا بُعِثْتُ لِأُتَمِّمَ صَالِحَ الْأَعْمَالِ. In another version إنما بعثت لأتمم مكارم الأخلاق. I was only sent to perfect the characters, the good characters. So the Prophet ﷺ is the best example, and we would not know how to get that example unless we study the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ and know how did he act here and he act here and there and so on. Then we are in a position to act. We are in a position to follow in the footsteps of the Prophet ﷺ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us, لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ لِمَنْ كَانَ يَرْجُو اللَّهَ وَالْيَوْمَ الْآخِرَ وَذَكَرَ اللَّهَ كَثِيرًا. You had the perfect example in the Prophet ﷺ for those who hope to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of judgment and remember Allah often. And you stop at this verse. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used the word uswa to mean the example. There is an Arabic word that can be used as well in that place. And qudwa, you can say qudwa means the example. Someone to follow is your qudwa. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is using here the word iswa, and this is, the scholars say, this has a more profound meaning than qudwa. Uswa has two dimensions. The first dimension is that you follow in the footsteps of the person. You consider him your example. But uswa also carries the meaning of suffering and pain. And that brings to the mind how the Prophet ﷺ lived his life from the time of Ba'athah until he died, in struggle, in bearing persecution, in suffering from people mocking him, all sorts of bad treatment he met, in being hungry. Sayyidah Aisha said that the 1 or 2 months would go by and we do not lit a fire in our house. This is a euphemism for not having a hot meal in our house. Prophet ﷺ used to put a stone on his stomach and wrap it very tightly so that he would not feel hungry. And he treated everyone the same way he treated himself. Even he treated himself harshly. This uswa brings that dimension to us so that we remember when we go through difficult times, we don't say, who are me? But we say, the Prophet ﷺ suffered more and we have to follow in the footsteps of the Prophet ﷺ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us, as-sabr was-salah, perseverance and prayers would get you to where you want to go. So we have to follow the example of the Prophet ﷺ in this respect. There are many examples that we can spend hours and hours talking about the Prophet ﷺ and how he dealt with people, how he controlled his anger, how he was able to change situations to the best, what is best for the Muslims and himself, and so on. But that's, as I mentioned before, that we can reach this by studying Seerah. Let me just give you one example of the Prophet ﷺ and the connection between the word uswa here and that example. This verse was revealed during the Ghazwat al-Ahzab, during the Battle of the Trench. And we know that the Battle of the Trench was a very difficult time for Muslims. They were faced by a large, very large army from the idolaters of Quraysh, and Muslims were very few and weak. They got the idea of dredging this trench so that it would be a barrier between them and the idolaters of Quraysh. And the Prophet ﷺ participated like any one of the Muslims. He didn't say, I am the leader, I sit back and people would do the work. He dug with them, he sang with them, he did everything as the Muslims did. He did even do the more difficult things that they could not accomplish. And the seerah tells us about when they faced when they were dredging this trench, and there was this big rock, and no one was able to break that rock. And they went to the Prophet ﷺ, and the Prophet ﷺ came to the rock and said Bismillah and hit the rock, and he said Allahu Akbar. And then he hit the rock second time and he said Allahu Akbar, and he hit it the third time and the rock was broken and it was removed from that place. Only him was able to do this because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enabled him to do. But it is a human effort. It is something that every human could do. And he said, they asked him, why did you say Allahu Akbar? He said that when I hit the rock, I was, he saw that the Muslims went to Syria, the Muslim went to Persia, the Muslim went to the other places. He saw the future of the victories of Muslims in opening lands and spreading Islam. قولوا قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ادعوا الله وانتم موقنون بالإجابة. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. Just to sum up something that we take home with us, what we talked about is the love of the Prophet ﷺ. This is part of our religion. We have to love the Prophet ﷺ because he is the one who brought us guidance. He is the one who saved us from hellfire. Without the Prophet ﷺ, we would be doomed. So he deserves to be loved, and even he deserves to be loved more than we love ourselves or our parents or our children. There are certain things that we can learn about the Prophet ﷺ from studying his seerah, because without studying the seerah, we would not know what the Prophet ﷺ has done. Then we have to apply what we have learned from the Prophet ﷺ. We learn the akhlaq, we learn the muamalat, we learn how to deal with our families, our friends, our companions and friends. And there are certain things that we can use to remind us, because as human beings we do forget. And there are few things that we can use to remind us of the Prophet ﷺ, instead of waiting for a full year for the birthday to come and celebrate. Prophet ﷺ used to pray by night. Even if you pray 2 rak'ah with the Isha, it is an extra prayer that reminds you of what the Prophet ﷺ was doing. He used to fast Mondays and Thursdays. Even if we fast a Monday every month, that would be a reminder for us that the Prophet ﷺ used to do this, and when we do it, we express our love to him. He used to fast 3 days every month. We don't have to do the whole thing. And usually if we starting things, then we have to start with few and then increase. And the Prophet ﷺ told us that a smaller thing that is lasting is much better than a big thing that is done only once. So we need to look for something that can start us on the path of loving the Prophet ﷺ. If we already know that and we express our love to the Prophet ﷺ in one way or the other, we should increase that and enhance it. اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات. اللهم ارفع مقتك وغضبك عنا. اللهم إنك عفو كريم تحب العفو فاعف عنا. اللهم لا تجعل لنا في هذا اليوم العظيم ذنبا إلا غفرته، ولا عيبا إلا سترته، ولا دينا إلا قضيته، ولا مريضا إلا شفيته، ولا ميتا إلا رحمته، ولا حاجة هي لك رضا ولنا فيها صلاح إلا قضيتها ويسرتها يا أرحم الراحمين. عباد الله، إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. أقم الصلاة.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح. قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
Straighten your lines and fill in the gaps. Allahu Akbar. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. آمين. كل الطعام كان حلا لبني إسرائيل إلا ما حرم إسرائيل على نفسه
إلا ما حرم إسرائيل على نفسه من قبل أن تنزل التوراة قل فأتوا بالتوراة فاتلوها إن كنتم صادقين فمن افترى على الله الكذب من بعد ذلك فأولئك هم الظالمون قل صدق الله فاتبعوا ملة إبراهيم حنيفا وما كان من المشركين الله أكبر سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين إنا أعطيناك الكوثر فصل لربك وانحر إن شانئك هو الأبتر الله أكبر سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر السلام عليكم ورحمة الله السلام عليكم ورحمة الله
I would like to announce that next Sunday, not this Sunday, the next Sunday, our second day of our series conference, the events will start at around 5 o'clock. brothers and sisters both are invited to come and listen to a lecture on Seerah from in English and in Urdu. In English, the lecture will be delivered by Brother Mahmood Adara, and in Urdu it will be delivered by Mufti Muhammad Naeem Sahab. He is coming from Karachi. You might have seen him on Geo TV, a very renowned scholar. He is coming and he is going to give the lecture in Urdu. And dua will be made afterwards by Sayyid Hafiz Qadi Sahab, another scholar. You are all invited to come. Please make a note on your calendar. Next Sunday at 5:30. And if you guys don't turn up, it will be very bad for us because he is coming all the way from Karachi. And what impression will he carry? So I would request all of you to come, as many of you possible. Bring your friends, bring your sisters, bring your wives and children, so that we can all celebrate. Then there will be Milad after that, but before that we will have lectures and dua, and then we will have Milad. Thank you very much. And we are collecting funds for Milad. The box is right here. Anybody who wants to donate? 23rd Sunday. 23rd Sunday, 5:30. 5 o'clock. Let's say 5 o'clock, not 5:30.